vivid versions.
I'm going to walk you through this exactly how it happened. Not the sentimental version people tell to save face, but the mechanics of the collapse. To understand Tuesday night, you have to understand the operational environment of the last 6 months. The structural integrity of the relationship had been compromised for a while, but I ignored the stress fractures because the day-to-day operations were still running. We split the rent, the domestic labor was balanced, and socially, we worked. But the data privacy issue wasn't a sudden glitch. It was a recurring system failure. It started 3 days prior. Sunday morning, I was dealing with Miller, my contractor for the renovation on the duplex. Miller is a good guy, but terrible at paperwork. He sent me a text at 7 a.m. regarding a permit issue for the electrical load. I picked up the phone, unlocked it, replied, and set it face down on the kitchen counter while I made coffee. Jasmine was there. She saw the screen light up. She saw me type. She saw me put it down. "Who is that?" she asked. "Miller," I said. "The city is giving us grief about the breaker panel." "Let me see," she said. It wasn't a request. It was an audit. "Jasmine, it's boring construction techs," I said. I pour the coffee. If it's boring, why can't I see it? That's the trap. The logic is circular. If you have nothing to hide, you must submit to a search. If you refuse the search, you must be hiding something. It ignores the third option. I am an autonomous adult who doesn't require supervision. I told her no. I didn't get angry. I just stated the boundary. My phone is my office, my bank, and my journal. It's a private space. I don't go through your purse, and I don't want you going through my phone. She didn't argue then. She just went quiet. But it wasn't a peaceful silence. It was a tactical withdrawal. She was gathering ammunition. For the next 72 hours, the apartment became a hostile work environment. You know the vibe. She wasn't yelling, but she was occupying space aggressively. Cupboards were closed a little too hard. She would walk into a room, see me, and immediately turn around. It was a blockade. She was withholding engagement to force a concession. We had dinner on Monday night during this Cold War phase. I made steak and asparagus. We sat at the small round table near the window. The silence was palpable, a physical weight. I asked her about her day at the marketing agency. She gave me one-word answers. Fine. Busy. She was punishing me. She was training me. The lesson she was trying to instill was simple. Compliance yields affection. Autonomy yields isolation. I didn't bite. I focused on the renovation. The variance on the electrical budget was going to be $4,000 over the estimate. I had to move funds from the liquidity account to cover it, schedule the inspector, and keep Miller from walking off the job. I had real problems. I didn't have the bandwidth for manufactured ones. That brings us to Tuesday. I was on the couch. It was 8:30 p.m. I had just received a text from Miller confirming the inspector was coming Thursday. I was typing a reply. Make sure the grounding wire is visible or he'll fail us again. Jasmine was sitting in the armchair across the room. She had been there for 20 minutes. She wasn't reading. She wasn't on her phone. She was monitoring me. I could feel the gaze on the side of my face. It's a pressure tactic, a stare down designed to make me uncomfortable enough to speak first. I didn't. I finished the text to Miller. I did the math on the calendar. If we passed inspection Thursday, drywall could go up Monday. The silence in the room changed texture. It went from heavy to vibrating. Then I heard it, the breathing. Short, sharp intakes of air. Not rhythmic. Erratic. I looked up. She was gripping the armrests of the chair. Her chest was heaving. She was hyperventilating, but her eyes were locked on me. Now look, I'm not saying anxiety isn't real, but I am saying that in this specific context, the display was functional. She was signaling distress. In a tribe, when a member signals distress, the others rush to assist. It's biological. She was hacking that response. Look at what you're doing to me, Daniel. Her voice hit a frequency that cuts right through the noise floor. She was crying now, but there were no tears on her cheeks yet, just the redness and the volume. "I'm having a panic attack because you're locking me out," she said, standing up. She clipped her shin on the coffee table. She didn't rub it. She used the stumble to amplify the chaotic movement. "If you cared about my mental health, you wouldn't make me feel this crazy." Let's parse that statement. She framed her internal neurological state as a direct output of my passive action. I am sitting still. I have a password on a device. This is the baseline. She is asserting that by maintaining this baseline, I am actively inflicting damage on her. It's the abuser logic inversion. If I am the cause of the pain, then I am the only one who can stop it. Therefore, if I don't hand over the phone, I am choosing to hurt her. I didn't move. I kept my hand on the phone. "I am texting my contractor," I said. My voice was level. "We have an inspection Thursday." "I don't care about the inspection." She screamed this. "I care that you're hiding things. You're gaslighting me." She used the word gaslighting. People use that word as a catch-all for you disagree with my version of reality. I wasn't telling her she wasn't anxious. I was telling her the cause was her insecurity, not my actions. When I didn't stand up to comfort her, she realized the victim in distress play hadn't yielded the unlock code. The strategy failed, so she escalated. She turned on her heel and marched to the bedroom. I stayed on the couch. I heard the closet door slide open. It stuck on the track. It always does, and she forced it. Wham! Then, the distinct sound of a heavy zipper. This was the departure theater. If a woman actually fears for her safety or mental health and needs to leave, she does it when you aren't there. She packs a bag while you're at work and is gone before you turn the key. When she packs a bag while you are sitting 20 feet away, loudly, it's not an exit. It's a negotiation. She came back out 2 minutes later. She was carrying the beige leather weekender bag. It wasn't full. The structure was sagging. She had thrown in maybe 3 shirts and a pair of jeans. No toiletries. You can't live at your sister's for a week without toiletries. She walked past the door. She stood between me and the television. She needed to obstruct my view. She needed to be the only thing I could see. "Fine," she said. Her breathing had leveled out. The panic attack had been suspended because she needed enough oxygen to deliver the ultimatum. I can't be in a relationship with walls. I need total transparency to feel safe. So, it's the passwords right now, or I'm going to stay at my sister's. She paused. She wanted that to sink in. She gripped the bag handle with both hands. "If you love me, you'll fix this," she said. "Choose. The ultimatum. The nuclear option." She was betting on the asset value. She calculated that the value of her presence in the apartment, the comfort of our routine, and the history we shared was higher than the value of my privacy. She was forcing a liquidation event. I looked at the bag. Then I looked at her. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel scared. I felt a profound sense of disappointment. It was like watching a business partner try to embezzle funds. You realize the partnership is over not because the money is gone, but because the trust required to operate is gone. If I gave her the password now, I established a precedent. Threatening the relationship yields compliance. Every time she wanted something, a change in plans, a different dinner choice, a financial decision, she would know that the threat of leaving was the trump card. I would be living with a gun to my head. I placed my phone on the table. Screen down. I did it slowly. I sat back and rested my hands on my knees. I made sure my posture was open. No crossed arms. Crossed arms looked defensive. I needed to look like a judge delivering a verdict. "Jasmine," I said. She flinched slightly. She was waiting for the apology. "I'm not causing your anxiety by having a private conversation," I said. "That is something internal you need to manage, and I won't surrender my dignity to fix it." Her eyes widened. She opened her mouth to interrupt, but I held up a hand. Just slightly. She stopped. "As for your threat, I continued. I love you. I will be hurt if you leave. The logistics of separating would be painful, and I would miss you. I saw her shoulders drop a fraction of an inch. She heard, I love you, and thought she had won. She thought I was softening the blow before handing over the code. But I said, I will get over it. The air left the room. I do not negotiate the terms of my autonomy under threat. I told her, if you need to leave because I won't give you my passwords, then that is your choice, and I accept it. I will never chase you. If you walk out that door, you are walking out of this relationship. Silence. Absolute, dead silence. She stood there, frozen. The simulation in her head had crashed. She had expected me to plead. She expected me to say, no, don't go, it's just a stupid phone here. She had not calculated the possibility that I was willing to let the asset go to zero rather than pay the extortion fee. She looked at the door. It was 6 feet away. She looked at the bag in her hand. It was heavy. She looked at me. I wasn't glaring. I wasn't sneering. I was just watching. She realized the corner she had painted herself into. If she left, she had to go to her sister's. Her sister lives in a studio apartment in the garment district. It's noisy. The couch is terrible. She would have to explain to her sister that she left because I wouldn't let her read my text messages. Even her sister, who isn't my biggest fan, would ask, was he cheating? And Jasmine would have to say, I don't know. He just wouldn't give me the code. It sounds crazy when you say it out loud. And if she left and I didn't call, what then? She comes back in 3 days? With what leverage? The bluff evaporated. She realized that leaving wouldn't get her the passwords. It would only lose her the man. She slowly lowered the bag. She set it on the floor. It made a soft thud. She looked down at her shoes. I don't want to go to my sister's, she said. Her voice was quiet. The hysteria was gone. This was the surrender. In a standard conflict, this is where the man exhales. He thinks crisis averted. He stands up, hugs her, says, I'm glad, and they order Thai food. The boundary is forgotten. The behavior is forgiven. But I'm not interested in peace at the cost of stability. I watched her for a moment. I watched her hand let go of the bag strap. She looked at me, her eyes wet, waiting for the reconciliation. She thought she had paid the price for staying by swallowing her pride. But she hadn't paid the price for the damage she caused. She had demonstrated that she was willing to weaponize the relationship to get her way. She had shown me that her love was conditional on my submission. You can't unsee that. It's like finding a crack in the foundation of a building. You can put drywall over it, but you know the structural integrity is shot. I reached over to the side table and picked up my book. It was a biography of Grant. I didn't open it. I just held it. I'm glad you don't want to go, I said. She let out a breath, a shaky laugh of relief. She stepped forward, reaching for the bag to put it back in the bedroom. She thought we were back to normal. But I said, she stopped mid-step. She looked at me. The fear came back, but different this time. Cold fear. You have revealed who you really are, I said. And I do not want that in my present or future. She stared at me. What? The ultimatum, I said. You put the relationship on the table as a bargaining chip. You were willing to kill it to win an argument. I don't build a life with people who hold a detonator. Daniel, I was just upset. You were manipulating, I corrected. And it didn't work. Now you want to stay because the tactic failed. But the intent remains. I stood up. I walked past her. I didn't touch her. I walked to the front door and opened it. You can leave, I said. And don't come back. You're breaking up with me? She looked shocked. Because I didn't leave? I'm breaking up with you because you try to coerce me, I said. The trust is gone. Without trust, this is just a lease agreement, and I can afford the rent alone. She started to cry again, but this time it was real. It wasn't the high-pitched tactical crying. It was the ugly, sobbing realization of loss. She argued. She pleaded. She cycled back to anger. She called me a narcissist. She called me cold. I didn't engage, didn't argue back, just stood by the open door. I looked at the hallway carpet. It needed vacuuming. "The bag is packed," I said. "Take it." It took her 10 minutes to actually leave. She had to gather her phone, her charger, her keys. She tried to initiate a new argument 3 times. I gave her silence. Silence is the only answer to circular logic. Finally, she picked up the beige bag. She walked out into the hallway. She turned back to say something, probably something designed to hurt me, to leave a mark, but I didn't give her the platform. "Goodbye, Jasmine," I said. I closed the door, locked the deadbolt, then engaged the chain. I leaned back against the door for a second, listened, heard her footsteps go down the hall, heard the elevator ding and the doors close. I walked back to the living room. The apartment was quiet. The vibration was gone. I sat back down on the couch, picked up my phone, unlocked it, then texted Miller. "I'll be at the site at 7 a.m. tomorrow to walk through the pre-inspection. Let's get this done." Then I blocked Jasmine's number. I knew what would happen next. The fallout. The next morning, my phone blew up. Not from her, she was blocked, but from the network. Her sister sent a paragraph-long text calling me a sociopath. I didn't read past the first sentence. Blocked. Her best friend, Sarah, DM'd me on Instagram. "You can't just kick her out like that. She's a wreck." I replied. She threatened to leave. I accepted her resignation. Logistics regarding her remaining property will be handled via email. Then restricted Sarah's account. I treated the breakup like a project management issue. Emotional volatility causes delays. Strict adherence to protocol ensures efficiency. I drafted an email to Jasmine, sent it to her work address, so I knew she would see it, but not immediately. Subject: logistics/property retrieval. Jasmine, regarding the termination of the relationship. 1. Your name is not on the lease. I have spoken to the landlord. He is aware you are vacating. 2. We split the utility bill last month. I will cover the remainder of this month's cycle. Consider it a wash. 3. You have furniture and clothes here. I will box the clothes. The furniture, the dresser, and the desk need to be moved. 4. I will be at the site from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturday. You can come by during that window to retrieve your things. I will have them in the living room. Please bring help for the heavy items, as I will not be assisting. 5. Leave your key on the counter when you go. Daniel. Cold? Maybe. Necessary? Absolutely. If I had left it open, come by whenever, or let's talk about this later, we would have ended up in a 3-hour conversation where she tried to relitigate the password issue. She would have tried to seduce me, or guilt me, or bargain. I cut the supply lines. The days leading up to Saturday were instructive. I spent the evenings at the apartment alone. I noticed the small things. The bathroom counter was clean. The TV wasn't playing reality shows at low volume in the background. The psychological overhead of predicting another person's mood was gone. I found myself working later at the renovation site, not because I was avoiding home, but because I had the energy. I was channeling the frustration into the property. We hung the drywall on Thursday and Friday. I taped the seams myself on Friday night until 11 p.m. It was grueling work, but satisfying. The walls were going up. The structure was sound. Saturday came. I spent the morning prepping. I bought heavy-duty cardboard boxes. I packed her clothes. I didn't fold them nicely, but I didn't throw them. I just placed them in, efficiently. I taped the boxes shut and labeled them clothes. I disassembled the desk she bought. I put the screws in a Ziploc bag and taped it to one of the panels. I moved everything to the living room near the door. It looked like a staging area. At 8:15 a.m., the buzzer rang. I pressed the intercom. "Yes." "It's me," she said. "Come up." I unlocked the door and left it ajar. I went into the kitchen and started making coffee. I needed to be occupied. She walked in. She had her dad with her. That was a smart move on her part. Bringing a male relative is a deterrent against conflict, but it also signaled she accepted the finality of it. Her dad, Frank, is a decent guy. He worked in logistics for 30 years. He looked uncomfortable. He knew the score. He wasn't there to defend her honor. He was there to move boxes. He nodded at me. "Morning, Daniel," he said. "Morning, Frank," I said. "Everything is in the stack there. Desk is broken down to save space." "Appreciate it," he said. He looked at the stack. He assessed the weight. He respected the prep work. Jasmine didn't look at me. She looked at the apartment. She looked at the empty spot where her desk used to be. She looked at the coffee table where the ultimatum happened. She looked smaller than I remembered. She wanted me to say something. She wanted me to say, "This is a mistake." She was waiting for the movie moment where I realize I can't live without her. I drank my coffee. They moved the boxes in silence. It took 20 minutes. The physical erasure of a person from your home is surprisingly fast when you strip away the sentiment. Frank took the heavy end of the dresser. I held the door for them. I didn't help lift. That's not petty. That's liability. If I drop it, it's my fault. If they drop it, it's theirs. When the last box was on the dolly, Frank wiped his forehead. He shook my hand. His grip was firm. "Take care, son," he said. There was no animosity in his eyes, just a weary acknowledgement that relationships fail. "You too, Frank." Jasmine stood in the doorway. She had the key in her hand. Her eyes were red. She had obviously cried in the car on the way over. "You really threw it all away for a phone," she said. She still didn't get it. She was still fixated on the object, not the principle. She thought she was the victim of a privacy-obsessed eccentric, rather than the casualty of her own brinkmanship. "I kept what was mine," I said. "Leave the key." She dropped it on the counter. It made a metal clack sound. She walked out. Frank followed. The door clicked shut. I walked over to the door. I locked the deadbolt. I looked around the apartment. It was emptier. The feng shui was off. There was a dent in the carpet where her desk had been. But the air was clear. The pressure was gone. The constant, low-level hum of managing someone else's emotional state was silenced. I sat down on the couch. The same spot. I picked up my phone cause I had a notification. "Miller, inspector just left. We passed. Drywall Monday." I smiled. "Good," I said to the empty room. Texted back, "Proceed." Then I opened the real estate app. The rental property was going to be ready for tenants in 3 weeks. With the renovation done, the equity jumped about 30%. I needed to look at the comps for the neighborhood to set the rent. I spent the next 2 hours analyzing market data. I was completely absorbed. No interruptions. No gaze on the side of my face. No questions about who I was texting. Around noon, I got hungry, walked to the kitchen, opened the fridge. It was mostly empty, except for beer, eggs, and some leftovers. I realized I hadn't eaten since the breakup, took out the eggs, whisked 3 of them in a bowl. Salt, pepper. Simple. I heated the pan, watched the butter melt, thought about Jasmine one last time, thought about the sisters' apartment and the narrative they were spinning right now. How I was the villain, the secretive, cold-hearted boyfriend. Her friends would be buying her wine, telling her she dodged a bullet. Let them have the story. I have the peace. I poured the eggs into the pan. They sizzled. Autonomy is expensive. You pay for it with relationships. You pay for it with lonely nights. You pay for it with the judgment of people who don't understand boundaries. But looking at that clean, quiet apartment and knowing that the only problems I had to solve today were my own, it was a bargain. I ate the eggs standing up at the counter. Then I went back to work. 2 weeks later, the duplex was finished. Miller came in under the revised budget. Barely. I went over to do the final walkthrough on a Tuesday evening. The place smelled like fresh paint and sawdust. I stood in the living room of the rental unit. It was identical in layout to my own apartment, but it felt different. It was a blank slate. My phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "I miss you. Can we talk?" I knew who it was. She must have borrowed a friend's phone or used a burner app. I looked at the screen. I felt a momentary pang, a ghost of the old attachment. It would be easy to reply. It would be easy to meet for coffee. It would be easy to slide back into the comfort of having someone there. But I remembered the breathing, the bag, the coercion. I didn't reply, deleted the thread, looked at the wall I had drywalled myself. It was straight. It was solid. It would stand for 50 years if nobody tried to knock it down. I turned off the lights in the unit, locked up, drove home in silence. No radio, just the engine and the road. When I got back to my apartment, I sat in the armchair where she used to sit and put my feet up on the coffee table. I picked up my book, the biography of Grant, opened it to where I had left off that night, read for 3 hours. The phone stayed on the table, face down, silent. And it was enough.
Thanks for listening.